There are a ton of big games dropping in 2026, but the one I honestly can't stop thinking about is the Blood of Dawnwalker. Full disclosure right up front, I haven't played it yet. I wasn't flying out for early hands-on access or anything like that, and I'm not that lucky. Instead, I've spent way too much time freezing every single piece of preview footage to figure out how the combat, exploration, and all these wild systems actually fit together. After looking through all of it, I've zeroed in on the features that make this game stand out. Let's talk about it. Let's kick things off with time. Coen has roughly 30 days and nights to sort out the mess surrounding his family. At a glance, that sounds super stressful, like you have a timer constantly ticking down in the corner of your screen. Thankfully, it doesn't work like that. You don't have to stress about a timer while you're just wandering around. The clock really only jumps forward when you commit to doing quests or certain actions. If you decide to help a random NPC, you're actively sacrificing hours you could have spent doing something else. This forces actual decision making. You can have a world-ending apocalypse looming, but you have to decide if you want to spend 5 hours doing a side quest. Devs call it a narrative sandbox. So you and I will probably have completely different stories based purely on who we decided to make time for. A day-night cycle is pretty standard for a vampire game, but I want to see how deeply it alters the actual gameplay loop here. Coen is fundamentally living two different lives. Passing as a human during the day is one thing, but at night the vampire stuff comes out, and that actually locks and unlocks different abilities, quest lines, and even NPC spawns depending on the time of day. I'm already picturing moments where I stumble into an enemy stronghold at noon, realize I'm outmatched as a human, and decide to come back at midnight, when I can use my powers. Waiting for nightfall actually becomes a core part of your strategy. A lot of games feature vampires, but they rarely make you feel like an apex predator. When night falls, Coen can scale walls, move around the map way faster, and ditch his sword entirely to shred enemies with his claws. The standout mechanic here is the feeding. Blood actually drives your whole survival system. You can feed on enemies mid-fight or even hunt local wildlife if you're trying to lay low. The catch is that feeding leaves you completely vulnerable. If you grab a guy by the throat in the middle of a skirmish, his friends will keep swinging at you. You have to really think about when to stop and heal. This is the make or break feature for me. The combat in Dawnwalker is entirely directional. Attacks come at you from specific angles and you have to parry or block in that exact direction. The same goes for your offensive strikes. You actually have to read the room and place your hits deliberately. Previewers have said this system has a steep learning curve. It feels a bit clunky at first before finally clicking into a deeply satisfying rhythm. I want to get absolutely bodied by basic mobs in the opening hours and eventually evolve into an absolute beast by the endgame once I master the parries. The devs have also confirmed there are accessibility toggles for this, so if you're just here for the story, you won't be locked out. Coen's progression is split across three distinct disciplines: traditional swordplay, vampiric powers, and blood magic. These paths actually represent total different ways to play, and some of the abilities are even tied to specific vampire bloodlines. You could build a glass cannon blood mage, a tanky swordsman who only uses vampire powers in an emergency, or some weird hybrid of all three. The build crafting potential here looks incredibly deep. This mechanic looks awesome. Coen can gain new abilities by hunting down and draining other vampires. Hunting down bosses actually lets you steal their specific mutations, so you're going after them specifically to grab their powers to build your character. My first thought is wondering who I need to hunt first to completely break my build early on. Choosing which vampire to pursue first could drastically alter how your character plays for the rest of the campaign. If there's one thing that stood out in the B-roll footage, it's that this map isn't covered in a million glowing icons. Dawnwalker seems determined to make exploration feel organic. You'll stumble across ruins, swamps, and enemy camps without a GPS line dragging you there. Better yet, the world doesn't scale to your level. Previewers reported walking into areas and immediately getting wiped out by over-leveled enemies. I love wandering into a zone and immediately realizing I'm way under-leveled. Getting wrecked and having to come back 10 hours later to get revenge is the best feeling in an RPG. We hear choices matter all the time, but Dawnwalker seems to be aiming for genuine narrative consequences. The choices seem to carry actual weight. You might save someone early on, only to have them totally screw you over later. If you ignore a faction, they might just get wiped out. If the world bends to your every whim, your choices are meaningless. I want to make a call that I genuinely think is right and then realize I just triggered a butterfly effect that ruined everything. Those are the moments that actually make a game memorable. Because of the 30-day time limit, you literally can't do everything in one run. I love the idea of rolling credits, jumping on the Reddit, and seeing people talk about entire quest lines, characters, and zones that I never even saw because I spent my time elsewhere. Playing a second time means you're basically getting a whole new game because you'll have to make entirely different choices with your 30 days. And finally, my favorite detail of all, you can walk straight up to the final boss right after the prologue. Will you win? Probably not. Will you get vaporized? Most likely. But the fact that the game doesn't throw up an invisible wall to stop you is incredible. The game gives you a goal, hands you a toolkit, drops you on the world, and lets you figure it out. The Blood of Dawnwalker drops on September 3rd, and on paper, it has everything I've been begging for in a modern RPG. Actual consequences, demanding combat, and a world that lets me make terrible mistakes. I want to miss things, stumble into danger, and barely scrape by. But enough from me. What features are you most hyped to get your hands on? Drop a comment below and let me know if you're as invested in this game as I am. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a future video. As always, thank you so much for giving me the time of day. I genuinely do appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Just some sheets of parchment. They'll fetch a good price after they're scraped good.